who say to me, stick to civil rights, I have another answer. Others can do what they want to do. That's their business. Other civil rights leaders, for various reasons, refuse or can't take a stand or have to go along with the administration. That's their business. But I must say tonight that I know that justice is indivisible. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
For criminal justice transparency was created in the fall of 2021. The CCJT in Kalamazoo began as a result of a community forum listening session. This forum was organized by the Advocates and Leaders for Police and Community Trust, ALPACT, in 2020, where community members engaged with Jeff Getting, Kalamazoo County's prosecuting attorney, and Josh Hilgart, Executive Director of Kalamazoo Defender. The goal was to identify advocacy goals for improving prosecutorial transparency and accountability. Community members expressed the need for access to information about prosecutions, demographics, and sentencing, leading to the idea of a publicly accessible database. The CCJT was created to address this need and promote transparency in the criminal justice system. In Kalamazoo, community members are coming together to push for transparency in the criminal justice system. The Campaign for Criminal Justice Transparency hosted a panel discussion where county prosecutors and defenders addressed questions and concerns about how the criminal justice system operates in Kalamazoo. Both pre-submitted and in-person questions were welcomed, allowing for an open dialogue between the community and those working within the criminal justice system. Ashante Collins, Executive Director of the CCJT, leads the Anti-Racism Task Force at Interfaith Strategy for Advocacy and Action in the Community, Isaac. Collins became the Executive Director in the fall of 2021.
In what ways do you personally attempt to address, educate, or change the disparities in the system?
So I talked a little bit about the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee that we're trying to form with the court and some of that work. So that's one way of looking at how do we look at ourselves internally, and then how do we look at the impact that we make externally. But also, to piggyback off of what Judge Sharma said about the youth, I think also offering an opportunity to youth, especially youth that come from marginalized communities, to see the other side of situations that they often find themselves in. So myself and I know my colleagues often open up our courtrooms to youth. I've had youth come from the Douglas to court over the summer and sit with attorneys, actually sit in the seats. I'm very intentional about not putting them in the defendant's seat, but making them sit in the jury box, making them sit at counsel tables, even having somebody serve as the judge, because I really believe seeing is believing.
So this year's Youth Justice Summit 2024 is hosted and presented by the Michigan Center for Youth Justice, the Campaign for Criminal Justice Transparency, and Griffin Place of Kalamazoo. The goal of today is to gain insight and understanding about how we as a community can build an early diversion infrastructure, especially to divert young Black boys away from the system here in Kalamazoo. As you listen and participate in today's breakout sessions, ask yourself, what can I do to help keep our children out of jail, out of the juvenile homes, and out of the path that can uproot their lives, dreams, and goals?
And welcome back. Law enforcement departments are working to bring transparency to people in West Michigan.
And they kicked off that effort with a technology conference at the Fetzer Center in Kalamazoo today. The goal, to show the public some of the tools police use and why they rely on them.
And News Channel 3's Carter Landis joins us live in the studio. Carter, the people you talk to say this is going to have a really big impact on them.
Yeah, that's right, Jessica. Andy, this is a first-of-its-kind conference here in Kalamazoo. It allows community members to learn about some of the tech that police use on the job. And by learning more about it, the people I spoke to today say it makes them feel much safer. The Police Technology Conference, held in partnership with the Campaign for Criminal Justice Transparency, is an opportunity for community members to gather at the Fetzer Center on Western Michigan University's campus. People learned about some of the technology that law enforcement departments use. Those technologies include facial recognition, drones, and license plate readers. The biggest goal of the conference is for police to explain how to use the technology correctly while educating community members on their civil liberties.
What we're seeing, especially in this last year, is how we're using community partnerships and relationships on top of technology to help us be more effective. So when we do have a crime, we solve it much more quickly than we did in the past.
Sonetta Moore, who works for the Douglas Community Association in Kalamazoo, says it's important for community members to learn about what their local police departments are doing when it comes to how they use technology to make arrests and solve crimes in the community. She says she learned a lot today and appreciates the transparency.
You do need people still to be able to follow through and do their jobs. Technology is just an aid to be able to enhance the whole processing of policing and being able for us all to work together. Because it just ups the bar. That's another step.
Yeah, I know that this will sound a little pie in the sky, but I still am optimistic. The work that CCJT is doing, we have some representatives from ALPAC. One of the things that has to happen is we have to find a way to have law enforcement here once we decide on these types of things, because the experience of the citizens of Kalamazoo is different than what happens in City Hall as far as what the officers experience. And I think the more that we can have honest discussions, that we can push politicians to do the right thing, that we can come together as a community to call out the bad actions that we see. It's important because doing nothing isn't an option. It's how do we find incremental success until we can really overturn big systemic injustice.
Is that the people closest to the problems are also the people closest to the solutions. So if we want to see long-term change for long-term problems, then we have to make sure that the people most directly impacted by community development and safety challenges are at the helm of decision-making, working with law enforcement and other community safety stakeholders as one community.
My grandfather used to always say it, which was 50% of life is just showing up. And there's components to that, but I think to a conversation I had with my oldest son's 12 years old, he's in middle school at the end of last year. He actually got a D in gym. He got a D in gym, and I don't know how you do it, other than to explain that he didn't watch a bunch of videos he was supposed to. And the teacher was very strict about it. He said, you can't make this up, you have to do it by X time, et cetera, et cetera. He got a D in his last trimester or whatever it was. So we went into this year and we had a conversation about, okay, for middle school, 50% of your life is showing up. You do that well, you had perfect attendance last year. The rest of it is about paying attention and consistency. And then in terms of the context over to this and what this represents, it's showing up with consistency. I think people in the audience, I've seen almost every face before in my life, show up with consistency and push groups like ours in the right direction. I think that needs to be consistent moving forward. I think the consistency in terms of bringing other voices in to speak back to diversity is important too. Because even though the group that's here is great, I've met and talked to a lot of the people in this room before, bringing in other diverse voices and point of views is incredibly important because each and every one of us sitting up here has some blind spots within the judiciary and otherwise. And I think that's important moving forward. So to me, my hope coming out of this is that everybody keeps on showing up and that there's consistency in action behind it.